Hello everyone and welcome to Underwater Adventures with Alex Mirabal. Today we have a very interesting episode because we will be talking about English ceramic found in the seabed in Cuba. So let's dive into it. This was a very curious find we made when we were exploring the Colorado's Reef to the west of Havana, so the north of the province of Pinal del Rio in Cuba. We set a large exploration for shipwrecks because we had plenty of archival information of ships that were lost in that area. So we planned a systematic survey of those keys and reefs because many of the archival files said, okay, lost in the west of Havana, so there was no real location reference that you can shrink to a smaller area. So we decided to explore. It is 200 kilometers long, but we decided that little by little, systematically going and checking all these reefs. Well,
in short words, difference between a key and an island?
Well, that's a good question.
Sorry.
We call keys in the Caribbean these tiny, sometimes they are not even that small, but they are sort of islets, so small portions of dry land in the sea. Normally, they don't have too much of rock, but mainly sand, mud, mangrove. So it's a little bit of a weaker scene that a proper island would have rocks and maybe
And minerals and earth. Okay, yeah, got it.
and maybe even fresh water. There are very few keys that have fresh water.
got it.
So we call them keys. So the Colorado's Reef is around 200 kilometers long. So we really need to do proper recorded survey and exploration to know which areas we have already explored and how to report on the findings. And in the case of the Paradiso key, Cayo Paraíso, or Paradise Key, it is a very small key, which is, let's say, going from the east to the west, is the first key of a long group of keys that goes until the end of the country of the islands of Cuba to the west. That is the Colorado's Reef, is also called the Colorado's Archipelago because it has plenty of these keys. So Cayo Paraíso or Paradise Key is the first one, which, by the way, originally the name was not Paradise Key. It was called Cayo Médano de Casigua, which, yeah, okay, I know the name is a little bit weird, but that's the name in the sea charts of back in the day. But it happens that Ernest Hemingway, the writer, he was living in Cuba. He was a man who went a lot to the sea for fishing. Everyone knows that. And he visited that key a lot for chilling, you know. He went with his wife for a weekend. It is a very small, very beautiful key. It is a key that, well, like most of the keys, nobody lives there. And it's very small. It's about 400 meters, 350, 400 meters long. And it has a beautiful beach and a nice anchorage. Behind the key, there is a flat water area which enough depth so you can anchor your boat there and be safe because you are in the leeward of the key, so the predominant winds will not hit you. There will be no waves. So for him, it was like a paradise. He went there for the weekends, or he went out fishing and would stop there to rest and everything. So he baptized it like Paradise Key, and little by little the name stuck, and we all know it as a Paradise Key. Very rarely you will find a seaman in Cuba, unless it's very old, that you will tell him, take me to Médano de Casigua. Nobody will know what you're talking about. So Paradise Key, or Cayo Paraíso in Spanish. So it is the first key, and we were starting our survey, our exploration from that area. As I mentioned, it is a beautiful place. It's a very nice place to work. Clean waters, very shallow. Somehow you are protected from the winds and the waves behind the reef. So it's a very pleasant exploration, even if you have to swim miles. You can, because the water is warm and the water is so clean, you don't have to be going down all the time to check on the seabed because you can see clearly from the surface. And in doing that, we found a place inside the reef, but right inside the reef, I will try to put some images. There is a channel of sand, very clean and white sand from the reef inside, that the day that we found that place, we already saw in the sand some pieces of ceramics, of tableware.
Is Cayo Paraíso kind of like Fuxa? Because I remember the pictures of Fuxa that I was just like, how come nobody has seen this? It's clear as day. This is what I'm picturing from your description, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but in the case of Cayo Paraíso, it's even more surprising because sometimes you find artifacts which are exposed on the seabed, which for us are very obvious, but not for the untrained eye.
Yeah.
Because that people wouldn't know what an astrolabe is or what an anchor
or a ballast stone
or a ballast stone or anything. But in this case, we are talking about tableware made of very nice pottery or very nice ceramics that are almost like, we call them semi-porcelain, because they are almost like porcelain. They are glazed and they have these beautiful colors. And this is an object that everyone recognizes.
Yeah.
Because it's a plate or a saucer or a cup or a glass. Well, this was exposed on the seabed with their bright colors and very pretty, to the point that when we found that place, we thought that would have been discarded from a ship. Meaning, the ship anchored there for the night and they broke some plates and they throw them overboard. It was something that was done in the past. Today, obviously, nobody just throws things in the sea, but in the past, people did.
I would suggest that today people throw even more things on the sea than back then. No, but the question that I'm going to ask is, they did that to not carry that much weight if it was already broken, or what do you think?
Well, if you have a broken tableware service of ceramics in your boat and it's broken and you cannot use it and you only have it on board and it could harm you or could create an accident or something, you just throw it away.
Of course.
You just throw away. I mean, normally today, with a little bit more conscience of the scene, you will wait to get to the harbor and you discard it in the trash. But in the past, they throw it. And we thought that that was the situation because obviously the first 2 or 3 pieces we found in the sand, they were broken because of the waves and stuff. So we were curious about it. We started free diving there and checking on these pieces. And as soon as we moved the first centimeters of sand, we start finding beautiful and intact pieces. Like we said, no, this was not garbage. This is something which it had a value. At the moment, we didn't know even the time or the dating of that ceramic, nothing. We were just surprised of finding these clean and beautiful objects in the seabed without having done any excavation or anything. So, okay, we marked the place, we explored a little bit, we realized that it was an area inside the reef, so meaning in the calm part between the reef and the inside. And we swam around and we explored and we realized that the scattering of these objects was quite big. There was a big area and the potential amount of these objects would be interesting because it could be quite a lot.
Can you determine the size of the ship more or less by the size of the cargo that you found? Or is there always doubt because you never know if you found the full cargo? Like, can you make those predictions?
Well, it's not that easy.
Okay.
Because, as you said, we could find just part of the cargo. The few times that you can do that with certain degree of accuracy is when you find a very large cargo that you can estimate that could not have come
from a smaller ship.
Yeah. But with little cargo, it's very difficult to say. So we reported that wreck, we wrote it down, we went back to the company, and we planned proper inspection already with bottles. We even, because this place, sorry that I'm going back, but this place is quite shallow. It's about 5 or 6 meters, which is not that shallow, but it's very close to the reef. So it was, for our expedition boat, it was very dangerous to put the boat there and to work, for instance, with the blowers, with the deflectors in the place, because there was a lot of sand. We suppose that we need to use a deflector to move this sand away and reach the cultural layer underneath. So we prepared a smaller boat that it was normally used as an auxiliary boat to bring food from places or gasoline.
You did an expedition in a dinghy.
Almost like a dinghy. Yeah, I cannot tell you. Sometimes we were
imagine.
three guys because it wouldn't be
Safe or space.
It wouldn't be room for anybody else. We were three guys, but we normally did a combination. We had a larger ship, our Pisces, which was a ship that I liked a lot. It was a larger ship when we went like 12 or 15 guys. And then this smaller ship, which is called Por fin. Por fin, we call it, Por fin in Spanish is at last, because we took like many months preparing that little boat, and we all thought that we will never finish. So we call it Por fin, so at last. And the more we did was taking both ships to Cayo Paraíso, or Paradise Key, and we would have the expedition boat on anchor behind the key, and we go with the little one and put the reflector in the area, because it was really dangerous to put our bigger boat in that place. So we planned that. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because when we were preparing this first expedition to the place, we got a new diver. And this diver, it would be his first expedition with us in his life. And he was very, very enthusiastic, and he was very thrilled that he will go in the expedition. And he was really intense. He was from the 5 days before, when we were planning the expedition, he was on top of every one of us. Like, what do I need to take with me? And what do you think? What do you think if I bring this, or what do you think if I bring that?
He was excited.
He was. But look, we were kids, all of us.
Yeah.
That was 1987. I was barely 23, and all my colleagues were my same age.
Yeah.
When we went out and he was with us as his first expedition, the trip from Havana to Cayo Paraíso is 50 miles. Our boat, it was not that fast, so it would take us 5 or 6 hours. And when we were in that trip, he was again on top of everyone, asking for the same things for the millionth time. And we started preparing a prank, and we were talking between us and asking ourselves, hey, what do you want to do tonight? But because we were planned to arrive to the key about 6 in the afternoon, 5 or 6 in the afternoon, because this is a place which is very difficult to go within the reef. You have to do that with daylight because it's very dangerous. The channels in the reef that your boat can safely go, they are very narrow, and you have to see them during daylight. You don't arrive there by night. If you arrive by night, you have to anchor outside. Yeah, you will not go in the reef.
That's why the ceramics are there. You have to arrive in the morning.
Exactly. I'm very aware of what you're doing. So we planned to arrive there at 5 or 6 in the afternoon, still with enough daylight to go and anchor behind the key, sleep there, and start in the morning working. And we were talking and said, what we will do tonight. And then one of the guys said, okay, when we anchor the boat, we go to the key and we go to the bowling, and we play some bowling and have some beers there in the evening. Obviously, there was no bowling. It's a key which is just mangrove and casuarina. Casuarina, it's a type of pine, it looks like a pine, but it's not a pine. I think it's called she oak tree in English, or Australian pine. Well, it's something that looks like a pine, but it's not a pine. So there was only casuarinas and mangrove there, and crabs and mosquitoes. There is nothing in that key, nothing. And we were talking, and we will go there and have some beers and play some bowling. And the guy was like, what? There is a bowling place there? Yeah, sure. And we are friends of the guys because that is for tourism. We are not supposed to go there, but the guys, they are friends of us, and normally there is nobody there. And the guy was really excited and said, I'm very good at bowling. And so when we arrived in the key, it was late afternoon. We arrived from the south of the key. We anchored the boat, and the guy came out of the cabin already all dressed up, because he was going with us for bowling. bowling.
And he needed to dress up for bowling, of course.
Yeah, because you're going to a place with air conditioning.
Serious
so you have
place.
to
You need to
dress
put a
up.
shirt
Yeah. It's for tourism, so you have to. So we told him, look, man, we need to clean up the boat and to prepare everything. So we asked one guy in the auxiliary boat, in the dinghy. We told him, you go there and you tell the guys that we are going about 15 minutes, that we are getting ready. So we sent him in the dinghy to the quay, all dressed like he would be in the middle of the city. Because we told him, it's over there where those bushes are. You cannot see it from here, but the bowling is there.
Okay.
So he went there, the guy in the dinghy came back, we start cleaning the boat, and like about an hour later, you could hear the guy screaming from the shore, hey, pick me up, there is nothing here. We tell him, yes it is, you didn't go all the way, it's on the other end of the quay.
It's behind the third tree to the left.
It's behind the last tree you went, it's over there. And maybe dark, because they are saving electricity, so it's maybe dark. You go. The guy went back again and came like 45 minutes later, but now he was desperate because mosquitoes were eating him alive, and he was really angry. You guys, blah, blah, blah. Well, I cannot say these words in YouTube, I assume.
Yep, no,
So
you shouldn't.
we went there, we picked him up. Okay, he took it nicely.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure he doesn't remember at all about this.
He may see the video now and say, who's that one? That wasn't me. These jokes aside, this place was really nice to work and easy to work. We went there with a small boat. We start gently opening holes in the sand, which was quite deep, and we started finding a large number of these ceramics. We, obviously, the first samples, we took them to the city. They were taken to the archaeology cabinet of the city, which were archaeologists, like a friend of us, Roger, was the director of that institution, and he was a specialist in ceramics, and we brought those ceramics to him. So he was the one who identified that this was English ceramics from Staffordshire, that they were produced somewhere in the late 1700s, even by a guy who made a big business about it. His name was Joshua Wedgwood. So it was quite an important find from the cultural point of view and from the archaeological point of view, to allow a little bit better for the study of the commercial relationships between England and Cuba at the time. Imagine, we are talking 1700s, late 1700s.
So you don't think it was for the US?
Then we found out that nope, it was meant for Cuba, that the ship even left out from Liverpool.
Okay.
And it was quite common in Liverpool, Havana.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah.
So once Roger identified these ceramics and he explained us the importance of these ceramics, that is also very funny, because when we brought it to him and I saw his face, because he was like, what is this? And he said, what have we found? That this man, who is an expert, is surprised. And we asked him, I said, no, because it's first time that I see a complete object. We find in the excavations in the
Fragments.
city, under the houses, we find little fragments, and we have to reconstruct and to imagine how the object will be. And you guys are bringing objects, they are all complete. It's one of the few advantages of maritime archaeology, is that if you find the right deposit, you have chances of finding intact artifacts that in land archaeology, they are not that common to find. So he was surprised by that. He was very enthusiastic. He helped us a lot in the study of that ceramics, and we started excavating that place. Obviously, some of our objectives were to eventually identify the ship where these ceramics came. And in the beginning, we were really puzzled, because we were excavating the place we were excavating that wreck for about 6 years. But in the first year, for instance, or in the first 2 years, we didn't find anything of the ship. We only found cargo. We only found these ceramics. We obviously started thinking, okay, maybe this ship went into the rocks, is stranded in the reef, they throw the cargo of ceramics overboard, to lighten the ship
Continue.
and float away, and they managed because the ship is not here.
Yeah.
Well, it was not like that. We found later on, like a couple of years later, we found ballast, which it was also a good indication because it was what we call English ballast, because it's different from the Spanish and the Portuguese, the Iberian ballast, which are these round stones I talked so many times about. This one is like squared or rectangular, is more like brick look-alike. They are very heavy, they are not bricks, but they look like bricks. We always call them like English ballast. So we found a couple of little piles of English ballast on the reef, and then very deep into the sand we start finding the few remains of the hull of wood structure of a ship. We also found barrel, a keg of powder, very unusual finds. And together with the ceramics, we also started finding what we think, and we thought at the time also that was part of the cargo, but a lot of wine bottles, so glass wine bottles, glasses, medicine vials, hourglasses, which is a marvelous find because this is very delicate, it's very fragile. And funny enough, the outside may have been of any metal. The outside of the hourglass was gone, was rotten, but the glass, the part that's supposed to be more fragile, we found few of them.
That's so funny. It's like a minimalistic hourglass that you would make nowadays where it's just like the glass shape that you turn around. That's so cool. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's so cool.
With
And
sand
also,
inside. So imagine finding something that has air next to sand.
it is, well, I don't remember if they had sand inside.
Like it came out?
I think they were part of a cargo to be finished somewhere else. I mean, they
Okay,
wouldn't
okay, got it.
transport it with the sand because, I mean, it's heavier and sand you can find anywhere. So, yeah, well, they did have sand, but not the original sand, the sand that they were in the sand. And we found a lot of interesting stuff. There were figurines. Actually, the wreck was known by us for a long time before knowing which ship it was. We call it los muñequitos. Los muñequitos in Spanish is something like the figurines, because we found a lot of figurines like this of ceramics and hand painted, very beautiful. That were people, that were animals. There were some few of them which were like birds, but they have a hole in the back, and if you blow, it's a whistle. It's super interesting little things, you know, ornamental production, obviously a mass production. We recover quite a lot of these artifacts. And after so many years of excavation, because this wreck was excavated, is incredible. The amount of artifacts that it had and the excavation, even if you go fast in the sand, and every new season, you find new artifacts. And it's incredible because when you thought that this place was finished, as the sand was so deep, you said, okay, this place is finished, we already excavated, we make our frame, and we know there is nothing inside. You go for the winter and you come back next summer and the sand already moved, and you excavate in the same place and you find new artifacts because they came with the sediment that reaccommodates there and brought artifacts from another place. So it took a while, even with these good conditions that we work in the place, it took a while to declare the wreck like reasonably finished. It took like about 6 years. And during those 6 years, as I said, working in that place was super comfortable because of the sea conditions and the clarity of the waters and the temperature. Also, late in the afternoons, we went back to our, let's call it the mothership, but it was just our expedition ship. It was an anchor behind the quay. And then we went to the beach in the quay, which was a marvelous beach, and we played football there and baseball and chilling out in the afternoon. It was a really comfortable way of working, and at the same time full of exciting finds. So at the end of the day, when you are doing your inventory of the artifacts that you have found, and you have, I don't know, 200, 300 of these artifacts
crazy.
just from that day, and describing them and the different animals. We haven't found this animal yet. This is the first dog. So it was a very fun excavation. It was a very fun project. I think that most of the old divers that we grew up in that wreck, we all keep that wreck a little bit in a special place in our hearts because it was fun to do. And on top of it, we knew from the specialists in Havana that we were recovering something which was important, something that was unusual. It was not a simple cargo of something totally irrelevant. It was the first cargo. Actually, this cargo ended up being, just in the ceramic part, it ended up being around 4,000 pieces. Wow. Almost like 80% of them intact, which is very unusual because normally you have a big percentages of broken pieces. And I think it was the largest cargo of this type of ceramics in a shipwreck found in the Western Hemisphere. So it was something important and we all loved the place. Obviously, the historical research continued, and many years after we finished the excavation of the wreck, one historian in the city found out that this could have been the schooner Arrow that came from Liverpool to Havana with a cargo of this type of ceramics, and they sank there under a storm on January of 1815, in the beginning of the 19th century, because of the reports from the captain. And not many people, or I don't even remember if there was any casualty, but the cargo was lost. And it was more or less in that place, so we assume, because we haven't found any other wreck with the same type of ceramics, at least not in that area. I don't say that it doesn't exist, but we didn't found it. And it's supposed to be the Arrow, so at the end we can take the figurine's name out of that wreck and give it the right name, so the Arrow schooner. And this was obviously for us a very nice wreck. We even made documentaries about it later on, because just the place, the beauty of the place, the involvement of Ernest Hemingway in the story of the key, the beauty of the cargo, the ceramics themselves. That all made a good package, so it's a wreck that anyone who worked there would remember with pleasure. It was a very nice wreck to work on. And well, I wanted to tell you the story because finding English ceramics in the Caribbean, in Cuba, which was not colony, was a Spanish colony, it was not an English colony, because you find that in Jamaica or in other places it will make more sense, but in Cuba it didn't, and that made that wreck very special. So I wanted to share that with you because of this curiosity, and also because you can enjoy the images of the porcelain. And well, if you came this far into the video, please leave me a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it, share with your friends, and leave me in the comment section any questions you may have about this or any of the episodes before, and let's keep on diving.